Thank you very much, and thank you very much to Sam and to the British Council for inviting myself and Sumayo to be here with you. It's wonderful to come back to Korea and to learn from you and to exchange our experiences. So, I founded MagicMe 30 years ago. I was then about 28, and next year I'm going to be 60. It's my 60th birthday next year. So I have aged during the process of MagicMe's life, which is a wonderful experience. And it's very different doing this work when you're 28 and when you're 59. People see you differently. When I started, I was one of the younger ones, and now I'm one of the older ones. So if I go into a school and talk to the children or I talk to the teachers, people view me differently because my hair has changed colour. So I know the power of ageing and intergenerational. So as you've heard, MagicMe has been around for 30 years. It's a charity organisation, and today we're going to talk to you about our practice, and we're going to talk to you about the context of the work in East London and also the principles and aims behind what we do. I'm going to speak first, and then Sumayo is going to focus on the artist's role, and then later we will come back and talk about partnerships, because all of our work is done in partnerships with schools, with after-school programs, with community centres for all ages, centres for older people on their own, through to care homes and care facilities, plus museums, businesses, all kinds of other organisations. Next slide. There are three ways of bringing people together for intergenerational work. One is to have older people serving young people. One is younger people serving older people. And our model is to have both ages coming together to work on a shared project with professional artists and a team effort. For us at MagicMe, young people is children from 8 years old in primary school through to 11, then young people at secondary school up to 18, and then young adults. And for us, older people is 55 plus, but that can be through to 105. So really, older people can be two generations at least. Younger old people who've recently retired, active, want to stay engaged in their community, want new things to do. And then fourth agers who are perhaps much frailer, people living with dementia, but people who still want to engage with their community and to keep learning right to the end of their life. Next slide. East London is a really mixed place where we work. It is, over the centuries, has been the place of arrival in London for new migrants coming from the river, from the docks. It's been the poor part of London, and in the last 20 years it has really changed through gentrification, through new building, a lot of businesses, multinational companies, and it's extremely expensive. The housing is very expensive, which means sometimes there is social housing, but it's in short supply, and where older people are living locally, sometimes their children, their grandchildren cannot get housing locally. And there's a choice. Maybe the older people and the young people move away so that the whole family can live together in a different place. But if someone has lived in this area for 70, 80 years, they don't want to leave that. So they may stay, but the younger generations move away. And then there's isolation and loneliness. With that pattern of migration, every 20, 50 years, there's a new migrant population that has arrived for the last 400 years, and that's ongoing and always changing. London is a magnet for people from all over the world. And when we work with the youngest generation and the older generation, we have quite different populations, different cultures, cultural mix in those populations. So you will see from the slides that some of our schools have 95% Bangladeshi Muslim students, because back in 1971, there was a war that created Bangladesh, a wave of migration, which has led to now the third generation of Bangladeshi people in East London. Whereas our older population can still be the white English people, but also a real mix of people from the former colonial countries and the Commonwealth. And bringing those two groups together, those different cultures together, is as important as bringing people together of different ages. It's all about building a stronger community, people learning from one another and understanding one another. Can we have the next slide? The older people we work with often, because they were poor, left school at 15. They worked hard, they had families, and they worked hard to bring up the families. And when they retire, it's the chance now to do what they want to do. It's an opportunity. And if you retire at 60, you might have 25, 30 more years of activity ahead of you. One of our core models at 매직미의 is to bring together a group of children during the school day with older people locally. Here it was a care home group and students to come together once a week for 10 weeks with 2 professional artists to work on a shared project. And our older people have said that being in a 매직미의 group is a chance to learn, it's a chance to stretch yourself, and it's a chance to do different things, an opportunity they may not have had before. It's a place to think and also a place to be yourself. Not to be that mother, not to be that grandmother, but to be there for yourself. One of the things we always try to do is listen to the participants who are part of what we do, and Sue will talk more about how artists do that in a moment. But one day I was in a care home talking to older women who'd been involved in the project with children, and they said, keep doing it, Susan. We want the children to come, we want the artists to come, but what we really want is something in the evening. Everything here happens in the day, and at 6 o'clock we eat, and then we go to bed at 8 o'clock because it's so boring, but then we wake up at 4 o'clock and wait for breakfast. So we had adults who wanted to volunteer with 매직미의, but were working during the day, and we thought, what do you do at 6 o'clock? You have cocktails. So we invented cocktails in care homes. Next slide. So now we run evening parties from 6 till 7:30, where young people who are working during the day come and share a drink. Rather than going to the bar or the coffee shop, they come to the care home to have a drink with the adults. And for both sides, it's company, it's breaking through loneliness that a lot of people can feel in London. It's a big city, you can feel lost. And it's a way for young people to link to their community if they've come to London as a student or for work. There are drinks, there's talking, there's friendship, there's music. We have music students coming in to play, and we have themes for the parties. It also can be a real challenge if we have people with dementia, people who've had a stroke. Communication can be challenging, but using creative ways we can communicate with one another. Next slide. That's just one of the projects we do. The majority of our work is led by professional artists from the performing, the visual, the digital, or the literary arts. And working in pairs, they work with a mixed age group. And within that work, there are 3 aims. One of them is that arts focus, high quality arts, people learning skills, techniques from the artist. But the artists are experts in their field, but they're not teachers, they're facilitators, and they engage the group together to work on a shared project. And Sue will go into that in much more detail later. Next slide. So the second aim is about the individuals in the group. For our young people, it's about learning social skills, communicating with adults in ways which will help them later to get jobs, to become more employable. But for older people who live on their own and are lonely, it can also be about growing confidence. People lose their confidence if they live on their own and don't talk to anyone for long days at a time. One man said, "I've lost the art of conversation." And so he was beginning to come out of himself by being with young people. One of the challenges that we have, of course, is how do we bring people together safely? We are concerned that young people are safe when they meet strange adults who are not part of their family, and also that vulnerable adults are safe working with young adults. So with our partners, our schools, our colleges, our care homes, we do joint assessments of any risk there might be and think, how do we make sure that people aren't left alone together, that they work in groups, and other ways to make sure that the relationships stay safe, and it's something to be alert to. The third aim is our group development and then community development. So here are a group of younger and older women who work together with Sue and others to create a performance, but then sharing that with their local community, friends, family, but other invited people. And MagicMe groups are always making exhibitions, books, putting their work online to showcase what young and older people can do. Often both age groups are underestimated. They have more skill, more talent than they're given credit for. It's also about challenging ageism. Who is an older person? What do they look like? People often wouldn't think of this gentleman. But here a group took photographs of one another, printed them, laid them on the table, and then added the decorations on top so they could make themselves into who they wanted to be that particular day. And we want to show what's inside people as well as what's on the surface, what gets judged perhaps. Next slide. So for young people, younger people did this as well, and some people have huge aspirations, huge dreams, but they want to hide themselves a bit. So this young man wasn't prepared to show you his eyes, but he wanted to show you what he's going to do in his life and what he's going to achieve when he gets his fancy motor car. Next slide. And then there are people in the middle who love to dress up, want to look amazing, but don't quite want to reveal everything, so they keep their sunglasses on. And I think for our young people, meeting older people, it's not meeting the old people. It's meeting a group of individuals. If you work with 10 young people and 10 older people, you meet 10 personalities. Will I be, when I'm older, one of the shy people, one of the loud people, one of the people who likes dancing, one of the people who sits down but writes amazing poems? And you can help to think, how will I be later in my life? Next slide. So over 30 years of practice, I, working with Sue and many other artists, have built a practice which is about how do you use the arts as a vehicle for people in groups to meet and make work together. And within that we have 4 principles. So we had 3 aims, we've now got 4 principles. The first one is that intergenerational focus, that we believe the artworks that are made and the activity that happens is richer because the generations are coming together and people who are more varied are coming together. So here we had primary school children, we had older people from a daycare centre, we had university students, and then we had the artists. So we had actually 4 generations working together on a theatre project, which ended in a public performance. Our second principle is that the arts activity has to be accessible to everybody. So the artists need to design activities that a child of 8 and an adult of 88 would want to be interested in, but also they're presented in a way that people of different skill levels, different confidence levels, different abilities can find their own way to join in. So here we had a lady in the white jumper who had a very, very small voice, but she had a very big story to tell, and we knew she wouldn't be able to perform on the stage, but we recorded her story so everyone could hear it, and then she sat on the stage and it was enacted by other people and shown in the film which the group had made together. There are creative ways around what can be seen of as problems. Next slide. The third principle is that relationship building is deliberate and has to be worked at. When you do intergenerational work and bring young people and older people into the room, you don't just have everyone in the room. They could just sit next to each other, do the same activity, but you wouldn't really use the potential of that meeting to make something that's different. So we work really hard as artists to design activities which mean you need the other person. And again, Sue will talk more about that in a moment. The fourth principle is that the work is of high quality, that we work with skilled artists who really want to make good art. It's not just, oh, it's good because, it's good for them. They're old people, but they did a good job. We don't want that. We want good quality art that our audiences want to come to. And we work with partners in the arts sector to take that work to places here at the South Bank Centre in central London, so that our groups can feel really proud of reaching a different audience. We now move on to a final phase of pictures to do with what I call the five senses. And there are five senses which are taste, touch, smell, and so on. But our five senses are different, and it's going to be a quick whiz, but the sense of purpose is the first one. So here the purpose was to make a play based on the theme of journeys, whether that's a journey around the world as somebody moved from one country to another, or a journey down the street to get married or to go and visit a new baby sister in hospital. So the purpose brought that group of people together. It was shared. Next. The second sense is the sense of place, so that the artworks that are made come from the group who make them at the time and the place where they are. So here, everyone made a model of a partner of a different age and then put them on the map. And they all lived very locally. But the children met the children, the adults met the adults, but they didn't know they lived in the same road. Next. And then they turned this into a mosaic. So the names of the streets are on the pattern there. It was a school working with a day centre for older people. They made a man and a girl outside the school, and then outside the centre was a lady and a boy. And along the road you can find stars on the walls that link those two venues. The third sense is a sense of adventure. And some adventures you go inward and you find out who you are, which is why we're called Magicmi의. And it's about intimacy and getting close to somebody who you didn't know at the start. Or it's an adventure where you end up on the stage, facing an audience, being bigger and bolder than you thought you were, trying out something completely different and being stretched. Some people hate one. Some people hate being close to people, but they can get on the stage. Some people hate being on the stage and they'd much rather do one-to-one. You know who you are. The fourth sense is the sense of occasion. So here, a lady at a cocktail party, that once a month when she can put on her best clothes to come out and party. But also be the host. Normally people are looking after her. Here she's hosting a party for other people. As something to look forward to, something to enjoy in the future, but also to enjoy now and then to remember the next day. You all know that the day after a party is just as important when you look back on it and talk about who came and what happened. And the fifth sense is the sense of achievement. So individually, what have I learnt? What have I done? What have I made? But as a group, what have we done together? So here, in the care home, children and older adults making shadow puppets and putting on a show for other people on the other side of the screen, working together in whatever way they could. And here in a school setting, the older people visiting the school for the project, looking together at what they'd made to edit for an exhibition. And I think the arts provide us with those ways to celebrate together, to show who we are together, to build a sense of place. But also, I think one of the most important things is just the imagination, that these artworks come from people, but they're also a chance to say, what if what if we did it differently? What if we did it together? What if we involved those people? And I think that's one of the most important things the arts offer us, is that what if.